Are you ready to alter your life? Because that's what's about to happen. If you're looking for a judgment-free zone where TMI doesn't exist, to have the conversations you're not supposed to have, and explore how to make small yet substantial, sustainable changes in your life to actually care for and empower yourself through physical and emotional fitness, then you're in the right place. I'm your host, Alyssa Alter, MOMDON, the Amy Poehler of Vaginas, author, speaker, coach, former Broadway performer, certified Pilates instructor, pelvic health expert, comedian, co-founder of postpartum.com, mom on the mend, and board certified doctor of nothing. I believe that if we put as much time, energy, and discipline on our insides as we do our outsides, we'll be unstoppable. Welcome back. This is part 3 of our 4-part pelvic floor series. And I mean, all of the parts are my favorite because I love talking about the pelvic floor, and I am really obsessed with harnessing this physical and energetic powerhouse that has remained hidden between your legs for your entire life until now. And I'm saying until now because now you are harnessing that hidden powerhouse. And this week's topic, where is your vagina pointing? If you have listened to episodes, if you are in my Facebook group, if you have ever worked with me, if you've ever met me, you know I'm talking about this. This is my favorite question, and this helps your physical body, your physical alignment. In such a functional, optimal, accessible way. I cannot tell you. This happened just this past week, but I cannot tell you the number of people who've been like, you asked me where my vagina was pointing, Alyssa, and I thought it was so silly, and that has changed my life. This has completely changed how I move my body, how I live in my body, how I experience, or get this, no longer experience chronic pain, and my awareness overall in my body. Just by understanding what we're asking when we say, where's your vagina pointing? So I am super obsessed with this. But before we dive in, okay. Wow. If you're watching this and not listening, you may notice that you may think, wow, Alyssa, are you still in your Brooklyn closet? And the answer is yes. But you'll notice there's not all the clothes hanging behind me. So maybe even the sound is a little bit different because there's less clothing in here buffering my voice bouncing off the walls of this tiny Brooklyn wonderful closet. And that is because, if you didn't know already, we're moving. My husband and I, we bought a house in New Jersey, which is where we're both from. We're going home to our mother country, the motherland that is New Jersey. And something that's really interesting about the New York City market, I think this is really all of real estate, although I've never really long-term lived anywhere except New Jersey and New York. Short-term, I've lived all over the world and all over the country, touring with productions, traveling, things like that. But that usually involved living out of a suitcase, so it's different. But when you are selling a property where people are coming to look to buy to live, or maybe they're going to buy it and use it as an income property where then they will incentivize other people to live there, you have to make it look like nobody lives here. So we've split it between my parents' house and my husband's parents' house, who've generously let us take over some of their real estate with our belongings, so many toys, to make it look like nobody lives here while we sell our apartment and prepare to move. Which is so exciting because we are expecting our second child, which is also so exciting. But I'm not going to lie to you. Because 1, I don't do that. And 2, I don't do that. As exciting as all of this is, I have been a wreck. I have been a disaster. I have been so sick. I've been so exhausted. I have been mean. I have been nauseous. I have been eating carbs with butter and pickles, and clementines have been a big hit this round. And in so many ways, I
feel like I'm in denial that we're moving because I simply have not had the energy to even consider anything except getting through the day. And I think there's a large part of me that it's a combination. I think a little bit I'm in denial that I'm actually leaving Brooklyn and leaving the city. I've been here for over 15 years. So much has happened here. So many things that there's part of me I'm also excited to move so that I can have even more distance from and leave behind and step into this new phase of life. And, you know, I'm like waiting for like the major meltdown to happen. And I don't think it's going to. I think that so much of what would break my heart right now to leave, I lost during COVID. The life that I had been living here in Brooklyn, in Manhattan, going to the city, living in the whole city, so much of that was taken away during COVID. And then pairing that with becoming a mother and mothering a baby and now a toddler through lockdown, through all of like what we've been through, just so fundamentally changed my life that I'm not leaving that life anymore. I'm leaving a different life here in the city. So I don't know if that makes any sense. It does make sense. It makes sense to me, which is really the most important thing. But I'm sharing that with you in that, you know, things have been really all over the place and chaotic, right? Like I'm working through the first trimester of pregnancy, which is horrendous. And I am completely changing my life. This isn't an alteration. This is like an upheaval. And there have definitely been moments of just feeling completely out of control, completely unmoored. And I really mean this, that I have never really, well, maybe not never, but this is like one of the most significant moments where I've leaned on my physical practice, Pilates for my privates, moving my body, connecting with my breath, knowing where my vagina is pointing. This has been one of the times where I've leaned on that the most. And like, I know that this is real. I know that this works. I know that this is impactful. I know that you can alter your life through Pilates for privates, because if I didn't know that, if I didn't believe that, if I didn't feel it in my own body, if I didn't see and hear this from other people, why would I do this? Why would I create courses? Why would I have this podcast? Why would I talk about this? I won't lie to you. If I don't believe in something, I'll also say, like, here's the thing I don't really believe, but maybe you do. I don't know. I don't do that. But I really have been leaning on this and feeling the impact, and it constantly blows my mind. So that's also another reason why I'm so excited today to talk about where is your vagina pointing. And if you don't have a vagina, I really invite you to connect with your energetic vagina. As someone who is a woman, me, right? I've lived in this world where I am told to like embrace big dick energy all over the place, right? Like we all accept like big dick energy. Yeah. Now what we're talking about today, which I first talked about when I was a guest on my dear friend Hiva Alagabandian's podcast, the Blush podcast. What I am inviting you to connect with today is not just where your vagina is pointing, but your deep vagina energy. Right? Big dick energy is out swinging around in the world for everybody to see. Deep vagina energy, that is deep. That is internal. That radiates from the inside out. That is centered. That shit's powerful. So that is what we are talking about today. We're going to talk less about how a lot of the clothes in my closet are packed up and in either my parents' basement or my in-laws' dining room, and more about where is your vagina pointing. So again, this is part 3 of a 4-part series. And if you haven't listened to parts 1 or 2 yet, I invite you to do that. It's not required, but I'm not going to say but because that totally it's not required for you to listen. But we are building something pretty darn spectacular here, if I do say so myself. So I do invite you to go back and build with me, with us. So again, if you've met me before, if you've ever taken a class with me, a course, a workshop, a session, listen to podcast episodes, I'm inevitably going to ask you where your vagina is pointing. And do I do this to make you laugh? Yeah. Do I also do this to make me laugh? Yep. Do I do this because it is a one-stop shop for nearly all of your alignment needs? You betcha. Now, I started dance class when I was 3 and I never stopped. I started Pilates when I was 15 and never stopped. I started yoga when I was 18 and never stopped. And all this is to say that I have spent a lot of time working on, learning, analyzing, dissecting, talking about, seeing, feeling, and hearing about alignment. What I have learned from all of this and working with, hundreds, maybe thousands of different teachers on alignment is that there is so much variation between individual bodies, what these gorgeous different bodies want to do, and what's happened to them previously and how that affects what's going on. So when I'm discussing alignment and balance, it is all relative. The alignment that your body needs to ride a bike is different from the alignment you need to go down a flight of stairs. Yoga requires different alignment than figure skating, which is still different from dancing, which is still different from running. Not that I do that. Downward dog requires different alignment than plow pose, which is still different from handstands. Are you picking up what I'm laying down? Great. So it makes sense that your alignment will be different in each of these asanas, positions, modalities, activities, circumstances. But the alignment of your body is the alignment of your body. The alignment of your body is different than the alignment of my body, which is different than the alignment of someone else's body, right? This is why if you are fluent in what's going on in your body and your alignment, you can then translate between activities. So it's like this. My body speaks English, right? And then yoga is Sanskrit. Pilates is German. Dance is French. Running is Mandarin. And cycling is Spanish. I need to be fluent in English first, right? Because I have a body that speaks English. So I have to be fluent in English first to understand how the sentence structures and verb tenses vary with each additional language that I am learning and applying, the rhythms of it, right? I need to know the differences and the similarities, and I need to be able to distinguish between all of them. And if you couldn't tell from this analogy, which I am particularly proud of, I was a foreign language major in college. That's right. I studied Spanish language and literature. So it's similar, right? If I weren't fluent in English, it would be very hard for me to understand how to speak Spanish because I would have no reference point on how to translate it, right? Unless I grew up speaking both. I don't know, maybe this explanation of it doesn't work, but the analogy really does, and I'm very proud of it. And then once you learn one foreign language, it's sort of easier to add on others because your brain already understands how you manipulate verb tenses, sentence structures, the rhythms, the smoothness and the whole texture of another language, right? And this all starts with you knowing the alignment in your body, not somebody else's, your own physical body. So we're going to do that. This another reason why I feel so passionate about this is, again, I grew up in the dance studio. You're surrounded by mirrors. You're in tights and a leotard. You are constantly compared to the person next to you at the bar. You're comparing yourself to every other dancer in the room. You're constantly just trying to make yourself look like someone else or something else constantly. And that is never going to serve you, because my alignment isn't the same as the girl next to me at the bar, right? My body is different. My skeleton is different. My muscles are different. My tissues are different. My entire self is completely different. So understanding her alignment doesn't do anything for me. I need to look in the mirror at my own body, what I am doing, what I need to do to then create the improvements, create the fluency, create the skills that I need to live my best life, right? Okay, so in order to get to know your alignment in your own body, not somebody else's, your own physical body, here's what you're going to do. You're going to sit up straight, or what feels like straight to you right now. So sit up, or if you're standing, stand, and take note of where your sit bones are. Those are the bones that, so if you are sitting, right, you can maybe sometimes you kind of have to move your butt. I was going to say flesh, but that feels so gross. But like your glutes, like your butt muscles out of the way so you can feel the bones on whatever you're sitting on. Or if you're standing, take note of that. And wherever you are, shift your weight from side to side. So if you're seated, you'll feel the shift from sit bone to sit bone. If you're standing, from foot to foot, and then settle in a place where they're even. Now you're going to tilt your pelvis forward and back, kind of like a cat and cow position, towards your tailbone, tucking your butt under, towards your pubic bone, sticking your butt out. And then find the center so that your weight is even, your alignment is even between the front and the back, the pubic bone and the tailbone. So we've already done side to side. Now we've done front to back. This bony landmark of a diamond created by your sit bones, your pubic bone, and your tailbone is now parallel to the floor. Your vagina is more or less pointing straight down, because your vagina is more or less at the center of this diamond shape. Please note, everyone's anatomy is unique, so we're using this as a general guide, okay? I am not saying that your vagina is the exact center point, and if we got out like a compass or a... Man, what's the name of that thing in geometry that's like half moon shaped with the angles? We're not, is that a protractor? I don't remember. Okay, I remember other things from geometry. We've talked about them before, but not today. Okay, this is not an exact science, but your vagina is basically at the center of this diamond, of this diamond shape of your pelvic floor, of that bony structure, those bony landmarks, and your vagina is now pointing straight down. Keep this alignment in your pelvis, and notice, don't change where your rib cage is. Is your rib cage stacked over your pelvis? If yes, great. And if not, make it so. So now that this diamond of your pelvic floor is parallel to the floor, this means your vaginal opening is pointing straight down. Because your vagina is centrally located in this diamond, as we've discussed, and we all basically know where our vaginas are. And if you don't, that might be a rude assumption for me to make. And if you don't know where it is, grab a mirror and go take a look. It's your body, and you deserve to know her and how she works and what's going on. And you can use this information for yourself. Okay, so back to your vagina pointing straight down. Notice how when you think about your vagina pointing straight down, the rest of your spine and body respond, and suddenly your posture is better. You're sort of longer and taller and more lifted. You're no longer in a back bend or scrunched over. I now pronounce you aligned. And when your bones are aligned as they were designed in your unique body, every single system of your body works more optimally, because this was the design before we started wearing heavy backpacks and doing sports and living a modern life that feeds imbalances. And now, are you ready for me to really blow your mind? So you're now going to use your breath as an exploration of feeling the natural contraction and release of your pelvic floor muscles. Let's discover and increase awareness of the different parts of the pelvic floor. So as you are, vagina pointing straight down, you know where that diamond of your pelvic floor is pointing towards the floor. It's parallel to the floor. Inhale and feel how the diamond of your pelvic floor lowers and widens. As you exhale, follow your breath as that diamond narrows and lifts. This is your pelvic floor stretching and releasing with your inhale and engaging and toning with your exhale. Your pelvic floor is made up of a collection of muscles that work together as a team. And like any winning team, each player needs to pull their weight. We want to make sure everyone is showing up fully and performing to their highest potential, right? Right. A team is only as strong as its weakest player. Now, the muscles that hold in urine are different from the muscles that hold in a tampon, which are still different from the ones that hold in farts. Right? I know. So I refer to these muscles as the muscles of the pee hole, the V hole, and the B hole. For simplicity's sake, of course, and to make you laugh. Okay, so I now am inviting you to get to know the muscles of your pee hole, your V hole, and your B hole. We're also going to touch on the TP line, that's the transverse perineal muscles, and the PR team, which is the puborectalis, one of my personal favorites. And it goes without saying that, again, these are all only clinical terms used here on this podcast with me when we alter your life and explore Pilates for your privates. And I think if you were unsure before it becomes abundantly clear, I am not a medical doctor. Okay, ready? Let's do this. The pee hole, which is also known as the urethral sphincter. And this little loop of muscle keeps the pee in and lets the pee out. And there's a really, really cool relationship between these muscles and your bladder. I guess I should say this muscle and your bladder. When everything is working optimally, they take turns, and they're really good about it. When the urethral sphincter is closed and engaged, the bladder relaxes and is able to expand and collect urine. Fun fact, the bladder is also made up of muscle. What? I know. Okay, when your bladder tells your brain it's full, the bladder contracts and the urethral sphincter relaxes. And it opens, letting the pee out. And then when the bladder is empty, it releases and the sphincter engages and closes. Cool, right? Now, if there is any trauma to the pelvis, the abdomen, the urinary tract, a history of UTIs, STIs, etc., and so on and so forth, the nerves that send and receive these messages can get a little scrambled. During pregnancy, the messages change because your bladder can't expand as far as it used to because it's being crushed by a baby. Since you pee more often during pregnancy, your body starts to think you are only able to hold in a small amount of urine at any given time. So with a vaginal delivery, then we add on to that as the bladder is crushed and smashed and steamrolled along with the urethra as a result of the literal steamrolling of the nerves, which get irritated and confused as the baby makes their way out of your vagina and out of your body. So the relationship now between your bladder and your brain, which communicate via those nerves, gets scrambled too. Now, with a cesarean or any other abdominal surgery, the fascia and surrounding muscles of the abdomen, and down near the bladder, they're cut. Thank you, Captain Obvious, Alyssa. Okay, they're cut, they're pushed around, they're sewn together, and the fascia gets all wonky, which we talked about previously, right? If it's like a sheet of saran wrap, like if you play around with one section, the whole sheet is compromised, right? So communication, these nerves get scrambled and that communication is wonky. And since the lines of communication around all of this have been warped, your brain and bladder don't know really what's going on. And the nerves and the muscles, they're scared and you're scared and everyone's upset and nobody wants the same thing to happen again. And so the muscles don't engage and release in an optimally balanced way, leaving you to pee your pants. You don't have to live like this. I promise. I am sharing these tools so that you can begin to retrain and re-coordinate and rehabilitate your muscles, nerves, brain, and body to function optimally. Now, this a muscular engagement of the muscles of the urethral sphincter, this is your classic Kegel exercise, characterized by the engagement of the muscles that stop the flow of urine. Now, please note, don't actually stop the flow of your urine when you're on the toilet. I know it can be tempting to use this as your urethral sphincter pee hole workout, but don't do it. It creates and it further promotes an unhealthy relationship between your brain and your bladder. It sends a lot of mixed signals, and you could end up with extra pee-pee problems. You can use stopping the flow of urine on the toilet once in a while. If you're just like, am I using the right muscles? You can stop the flow of urine and be like, okay, those are what they are. And now I want this relationship between my urethra, my bladder, and my brain to be so healthy and optimal. I am not going to send mixed signals anymore. So then you're going to stop doing that. Okay. We're moving on. The V hole. That's the vaginal opening, the bottom of the vaginal canal, where you would cross the threshold to insert a tampon because your period is coming out of this hole. The vagina itself, the birth canal, is also made up of muscles. You can think of the vaginal opening as another sort of sphincter. What I'm saying is there are muscles that you can engage and release around the vaginal opening that are distinct from the muscles of the vagina itself. Okay? So that's your V hole. Here we go. One of my favorites, the B hole. My favorite because mine was torn in two in childbirth. But don't worry, it works great now. I had a brilliant surgeon. I did Pilates for my privates, and I saw incredible physical therapists to help me make a full, I was going to say beautiful recovery, whatever a beautiful recovery means. So by the B hole, I mean your anal sphincter. This ring of muscle closes and opens the anus. It keeps poop in and lets poop out. Now you may be thinking, Alyssa, just because your butthole was torn in childbirth doesn't mean mine was or will be. Why the butt stuff? And I get it. I get it. You're right. This may not happen to you. And something people don't talk about enough, from my professional opinion, is that even though you didn't tear your anal sphincter or rectum, you may be a mother tucker. What's a mother tucker? I'm glad you asked. Again, in our conditioning as women, right, to take up less space, to suck our stomach in, hold our butts, like be just look like everybody else, we clench our butts and tuck our tailbones under in an effort to hold our lower abs in and have a flat tummy. It's also, your glutes are a very common place to store tension. That's why doing a figure four stretch or pigeon in yoga class is always intense and so deeply satisfying. And if you're wondering how this applies in relation to pregnancy and childbirth, even if you didn't tear your butt like me, your bowels were crushed during pregnancy and steamrolled just like your bladder during a vaginal birth. And after a vaginal birth, a cesarean, a hysterectomy, or an appendectomy, all of your guts have been pushed and pulled and are rearranging themselves. Your pelvic floor is a team of muscles. And if a team member is injured, it doesn't mean every team member is now injured. It means the team's performance will be compromised. So after an injury, trauma, or illness, all of your muscles are scared. They're guarding. They're overcompensating. They don't know up from down, and the nerves and organs are all a little confused. So saying hi to these muscles individually, reminding them what their functional movement looks like and feels like, and how they can coordinate with each other and with your breath is a fabulous idea. It makes sense, right? This is common sense. So now we're visiting the TP line. This is the transverse perineum, the muscle that goes across your pelvic floor from sit bone to sit bone. Now, if you have ever gotten on a bike after a long time away, you are familiar with this muscle, because these muscles are the ones that feel awful the next day when you try to sit down on the toilet. And if you know that you have a tighter pelvic floor, if you experience pelvic pain, you have endometriosis and or chronic lower back pain, creating some space in this area across the transverse perineum between your sit bones will be beneficial. Now, during pregnancy, these muscles work really hard to support your organs and the baby to create some semblance of stability while your pelvis widens. And after childbirth, they help to close the birthing field, if you will. And that applies if you had a vaginal birth, right? That field was definitely pushed wider open. But also if you had a cesarean, all of that opened later on in pregnancy to create more space in your physical body for your baby to grow. So regardless of how your baby exited, we do want to address closing the birthing field. We want to allow these muscles to do their job, and we know we need to restore a healthy balance of engagement and release, which we can explore through our breath. Inhale, the diamond of the pelvic floor widens. And as you exhale, the diamond of the pelvic floor narrows. So now, the puborectalis. This is a U-shaped muscle that attaches at the pubic symphysis, which is your pubic bone, which is actually a joint, fun fact, and extends the length of the pelvic floor to wrap around the rectum, and then it comes back to the pubic bone, or pubic symphysis. Okay, this is also the muscle featured in the Squatty Potty commercials, which if you don't have a Squatty Potty, you should get one. They're phenomenal. Okay, so if you find yourself physically constipated, which is different from emotionally constipated, although the two are usually pretty closely related. Okay, it may be because of this muscle, this puborectalis muscle. When it's too tight, it puts too much of a bend in the rectum, which prevents you from eliminating fully, which is my polite way of saying getting all the poop out. So the poop stays in the pipes longer, which allows your body to draw even more water out of it, which dries it out, making it harder and denser and therefore more difficult to pass. It's a whole thing, and if you're experiencing this, you can change it. The first step is discovering these muscles and feeling how they function in your body. Something very important I have to say. We learn through contrast. Okay? So we're now going to use that to your advantage. So I know I'm making an assumption here, but you're probably more familiar with the feeling of engagement rather than release when it comes to your pelvic floor muscles. And what's great is that you can use that familiarity as a guide to how to let go, to feel something different in your body. So that diamond breathing that we did earlier is an exploration of following the natural pattern of breath and how it coordinates with the pelvic floor. You know that the pelvic floor is made up of voluntary skeletal muscles, which means that you can use them however you want. So now you are going to explore using your breath to consciously, purposefully, intentionally stretch those muscles and find balance through release and relaxation. So in the previous breathing exercise, you utilized the contrast of engagement and release. And this time around, you will explore what it feels like to release and release as you breathe. So before we did inhale, you feel the diamond of the pelvic floor widen. And as you exhale, You feel it narrow and engage. So now, inhale and create width in the diamond of your pelvic floor. As you exhale, gently resist the narrowing in order to try to maintain the space that you created on your inhale as long as you can. All of this is to be done gently. This is not an area of your body where you need to push, muscle through, bear down. Gently inhale. So inhale and feel the diamond widen. And as you exhale, gently resist the narrowing. Create an active stretch in your pelvic floor muscles. So now your challenge, should you choose to accept it, my friend, is using this idea, doing both, where you inhale and release, exhale, engage, and where you inhale, release, and exhale, release. Go back and try that, isolating the P hole, the V hole, the B hole, the TP line, and the PR team. Explore the dynamic stretch in your pelvic floor muscles. Use your breath to create that dynamic stretch, which is the most direct and efficient way to renegotiate your movement patterns and habits to create new, healthy, optimally functioning neural pathways. Now, maybe I just nerded out too hard, but I'm not going to... Sorry, not sorry. But in other words, it's the easiest way to get your brain and your body to understand each other and start working together again. If you are looking into diving deeper into this to get even more intimate, do this breathing exercise while using a hand mirror to look at your undercarriage, because you can literally see the muscles engaging and releasing the same way if you're holding a dumbbell and you do like bicep curls, you see your arm react. These are muscles. And I cannot wait to meet you back here for part 4 of this series, where we're going to go into really, this is... I just love this so much. I love all of it. I can't say it's my favorite. It's all my favorite. But we're going to be talking about the intersection of the physical and emotional fitness when it comes to working with your pelvic floor. Pilates for your privates, meaning your undercarriage, and your privates, meaning your feelings. Friend, let me tell you, this is my freaking Super Bowl. This is my Tony Award-winning Broadway show. This is my drop of the new Lizzo album or the new Meghan Trainor album. I cannot wait to share it with you. So I will meet you back here for part 4. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, shoot me an email, DM me on Instagram, or make sure to check out my Substack, alteryourlife.substack.com, where I am writing more about this, where I'm sharing more about this, and where you can get in touch with me to ask me any of your questions. And before I sign off, you know what I'm going to say, don't you? I've got your back. I've got your front. And as always, I've got your undercarriage.
Thank you so much for sharing your time with me and listening to the end of this episode. Look at you. You're someone who finishes what they start. I love that about you. And if you're picking up what I'm laying down, be sure to visit me over at alissaalter.com for more resources on how you can alter your life, like downloading the 5-minute meditation that I use to start my day with confidence and ease, all before getting out of bed. See you next week.